Welcome. Ananda here, Peaceful Living in Chaotic Times. We're reading from the dictionary that can save your life, and this is part two of a six-part series. So let's begin. What is law? If you go to the book of Genesis, you will notice that God granted us dominion over the land, the air, and the water. L is for land, A is for air, W is for water. This is law. Let's break down the word law into jurisdictions so we can see why the courts view you as they do. Land equals constitutional law or common law, which is based on natural law or God's law, the law of the land. Land law is supreme. Air has to do with creating your God trust. This will come in handy later should you ever need to stand in a court of law and prove to the courts that you are a God-made flesh and blood being and not a legal fiction. In this book, we will be focusing on land and water jurisdictions for the most part, and not so much on that of the air. This is because most folks run into problems between the land and water jurisdictions. Water, Admiralty law. Don't confuse the A in Admiralty with the A in air. Admiralty law is always referring to the water jurisdiction. Admiralty law equals water. This is the foreign government's civil jurisdiction. They are a corporation or a corpse oration, a dead entity. A corporation is without feeling, without compassion. Once you realize this, you will know why they, the agents of the corporation, do not care about your soul, for it is their job to uphold the rules and laws of the corporation. And what are the duties of the agents and shareholders of a corporation? To uphold and ensure the corporation's profits. When dealing with a corporation, you're dealing with a soulless entity. This is why fighting within their commercial jurisdiction will only ever lead one into a never-ending rabbit hole of doom, and the end result is always leaning on the side of never attaining justice. Admiralty law is the same as Roman law, maritime law, corporate law, political law, and civil law. All of these definitions are referring to water jurisdiction. Know the meaning of law. As you know and understand the meaning of the word law, you will know which jurisdiction you are in. Let's go back to the law of the land or land jurisdiction. When you hear land jurisdiction, just know that you are now operating in common law, constitutional law, natural law, or God's law. Common law is based on common sense, which was granted to us by our Creator. Now remember that Admiralty law, legalese, in its essence is word manipulation and is intended for trickery. In the Britannica Encyclopedia of Arts and Sciences, the word legalese literally translates to undoing God's law. They, the Admiralty law lawmakers, have taken many of the original common law meanings and twisted them into meaning different things in order to serve their evil outcomes. For example, they have come up with their own definition of common law to mean that if a law is common to most of the people in the region, it's said to be common law. Well, this may be true, but it is not the original meaning. And you can easily see how laws and rules could be manipulated to serve a desired outcome, which may be for the common good, but they might also be used for outcomes that do not have the common good at heart of the matter. At the heart of the matter. A perfect example would be the common practice of genital mutilation of women and girls in a certain region. If this is commonly accepted among the people of the area, is it truly lawful? My inner moral compass tells me no. I'm sorry for the extreme explanation here, but I need for you, dear reader, to see how the trickery in which the Admiralty law bases its entire existence is so corrupt that it can easily turn into something evil, into something lawful through, well, lawful in quotes, through their use of crafty word manipulation called legalese. Let's continue further to look at land jurisdiction. In addition to the common sense common law meaning, it is also often referred to as natural law. This term excites me because Christ defined means natural. What a wonderful connection between God and the law. So, what this means is, as you grow spiritually and you come to attain your Christ conscious awareness within you, no one can have jurisdiction over you. This is the I am presence that Jesus spoke of in his teachings. It is God working through you as you. And in that way, no man can ever hold power over you, for no man can hold power over his creator. No man can hold power over God. That is to say, the God essence that is you. It's even absurd for a man to try to think that this is possible. Even one of the very maxims of law is that which has been done must be undone. Furthermore, as you learn to read the Bible as a trust indenture, you will grow to know that God granted you and entrusted you with dominion over the land, the air, and the water. You are an inhabitant of this God given world, and it is up to you to oversee and take care of it and all of God's blessed beings who live upon it, including the plants and the animals. It becomes so clear as to why our founding fathers said that we are duty bound to defend the Constitution and to defend our right to freedom. It is our responsibility as recipients of this divine gift from God to care for this planet and the life that exists herein with our hearts and souls. In conclusion, on the topic of natural law, it is important to know and understand it and recognize that it is indeed synonymous with Christ conscious awareness and inner knowing. Let's look at the definition for legal. Legal defined means undoing God's law. This is from the 1893 Dictionary of Arts and Sciences, Encyclopedia Britannica. Legalese. The legal words, language, terms, and meanings, either written or spoken, and combinations of them that deem something as legal. A style of writing or speaking heavily emphasizing the abstruse technical vocabulary of the law to the point where a speech or document may be incomprehensible to non-specialists. And that's from Wordnik. I call it word manipulation, or words which are created or combined in order to confuse or lead one astray. Let's look at the terminology of railroading. Railroading, first definition, to force someone into a situation or action by putting a lot of pressure on them to hurry and acquiesce right away. Here's an example. Don't let them railroad you into appointing an attorney to you. Number two, to convict one of a crime without due process of law, or to convict them based on false evidence. Whew. Number three, to force the passage or acceptance of something, especially legislation, by an authoritative body with such haste and pressure that the normal careful considerations of possible implications are avoided. And number four, to lead someone down a certain path to a predetermined outcome. Understanding. In the law of contracts, this is a loose and ambiguous term unless it is accompanied by some expression to show that it constituted a meeting of the minds of parties upon something respecting which they intended to be bound. This is from a Supreme Court case, Camp versus Waring, 25. It's either connotation or Connecticut. It's abbreviated CONN period 529 period. But it may be considered an informal agreement. In a more literal meaning, it means to stand under another. This could be in rank or status. Remember, you stand under no one. No other is above you. Only God is above you. To overstand. This is what you can claim from this point forward. You stand under no other man, but you can overstand them by calling them out on their fraud against you. In fact, this is the very thing that must be done. Remember the maxim of law, that which has been done must be undone. This is why the fraud that has been created by the Bar Association members and their minions must be called out. And sadly, because these power mongers are not self-correcting, it is up to us, it is up to we the people to stand against it. We have to call out these mobsters on committing fraud against us. It is actually an integral part of our commission here on planet Earth to hold the criminals accountable and to get them to correct their errors. To have inner standing is to have realization or inner knowing through an emotional cognition or innate recognition of a higher or universal law, otherwise known as God's law. Some call this inner knowing truth absolute, meaning that it is a truth that is not debatable. Attorney. To twist or turn something into something else. To turn one's rights over to another. An actor who twists and turns things to create a convincing story. To act in place of another. Excuse me. To act in place of another, which the court refers to as a non-living thing, such as an entity, a vessel, a person, a resident, etc., and so forth. An agent who is acting on behalf of another to turn over money or goods on behalf of that other. And then it has thing in parentheses. To turn over or transfer to another money or goods. Actor, one who lies convincingly enough to propel the plot of a story forward. When you hire an attorney, you are literally giving up your rights. The court sees you as incompetent when you have someone speak on your behalf. You see, an attorney can only represent an entity, a non-living thing, a corporation, otherwise known as a corpse-oration, a person, a minor, someone infirmed, incompetent, a ward of the state. Notice the words person and minor. Remember earlier when looking at the definition of purser, and we noticed the reference to mining? I find it strange that the word minor is yet another word that is similar to mining. What could the corporate government be mining for? Let's continue with looking at the role of the attorney and come back to this question later. An attorney cannot speak for a living soul unless the living soul is deemed incompetent or lunatic. Whew. Informant. To turn one over to another. It's the informant turns goods or property over to another. And in parentheses here it says trafficking. BAR, B-A-R, capital B-A-R, British Accredited Registry. Note, an attorney does not hold a license to practice law. They hold a club membership card, exclamation point. They are a part of the private club called BAR, capital BAR, which is aligned to British rule and not aligned to the true, original, organic United States of America. They, the bar members, are loyal to the Crown. If you are in a courtroom and the judge asks you if you hold a license to practice law, it's a trick. Do not answer. Instead, ask them if they hold a license. If they answer yes, ask them to produce the license for you to see it. They cannot, for no such license exists. Do not refer to yourself as a lawyer. If you need to give yourself a title, say, I am here as the living flesh and blood man, or I am lawful counsel. Note, you cannot be in a courtroom representing yourself because you are yourself. You are a living, breathing man or woman. Again, we see the I am that Jesus spoke of represented in how you present yourself, not represent yourself. Human being. See monster. A monster hath no inheritable blood and cannot be heir to any land. This is from Ballantyne's Law Dictionary, 1930. A human being by birth, but in some part resembling a lower animal. That's from Ballantyne's Law Dictionary, 1948. From Latin humanus, a lesser, inferior man or woman defined legally as animal. Well, that concludes part 2. Thank you for joining, and please stay tuned for the next in the series of part 3 of reading the dictionary that can save your life. You can pick up a copy of the dictionary that can save your life at americansinaction.info. I love you. Stay free, stay beautiful, stay alive, and namaste.